When the world-renowned game announced its shutdown, everyone rushed to sell their gear to recoup their money, but he did the opposite, selling his house and taking loans to top up. Others mocked his apparent stupidity, but deep down, he was the only one who knew that the moment the servers closed, the entire world would change forever. Monsters ranging from lowly zombies to terrifying demon gods would descend upon the earth, and those who kept their characters would inherit their in-game powers. In his past life, he had been forced by reality to sell his account, leaving him so weak that he didn't last even half a day when the apocalypse finally arrived. In his final moments, he made one last call to his in-game partner, Su Wanting, hoping that perhaps they might meet again in another life. He said his final goodbye to Wanting, but when he opened his eyes again, he found he had traveled back to the days before the game's shutdown. He was currently on the phone with Su Wanting, whose voice drifted through the receiver, sounding confused as she asked what he meant by farewell. She told him he was talking nonsense. Just because New Era was closing its servers didn't mean they couldn't simply find another game to play together. Besides, the game still had half a month left. She mentioned her plan to sell her account and asked for his thoughts, but he quickly disagreed. He argued that the account wouldn't fetch much money now anyway, and besides, it held too many precious memories for him to let go of so easily. He intended to play until the very last second before the shutdown. Hearing her familiar response, he confirmed that he had indeed returned to the past. When he remained silent for a moment, Wanting asked with a hint of disappointment if he was truly considering selling his account after all. To her, this game wasn't just software. It was a beautiful collection of memories, and he was the most important part of that shared history. Naturally, the thought of him choosing money over staying with her until the end hurt her deeply, just as it had in his previous life. Back then, despite her disappointment, she had still rushed to save him the moment the monsters appeared, though he hadn't survived long enough to be rescued. With that thought in mind, he smiled and assured her that not only would he keep his account, but he would stand by her side until the very end. He promised to take her through every dungeon and scenic map they had never managed to visit before, which made her voice brighten with excitement. They made their pact, and she told him to get some sleep so he could carry her through the game tomorrow, a perfectly ordinary request, or so it seemed. After hanging up on that sweet promise, he opened the game forums, which were filled with players complaining about the developers and selling off their items. As he scrolled, he saw countless players dumping their gold, with one offer even listing 100 million gold coins for a mere 100,000. We should remember that in this world-renowned game, gold once traded 1-to-1 with real currency, but now the value has plummeted to 1,000-to-1. He knew there was no rush to buy just yet, as prices would surely crash further, so he kept scrolling until one particular post caught his eye. His eyes lit up at the sight of the staff of the Aeolian god, a max-level artifact and the only one on the server, listed for 600,000. As a mage, it was the perfect weapon, but he realized with a start that he couldn't afford it, at least, not until he sold his house tomorrow. After all, once the game invaded reality and monsters descended, even the grandest skyscrapers would be nothing more than rubble before them. He immediately contacted an agent, and since his apartment was in a prime school district, buyers began reaching out almost as soon as the listing went live. A buyer offered $3 million in cash, though with the contracts and fees, the earliest the deal could close was the following day. He wasn't worried about the wait, however, as he had other plans, starting with taking out as many loans as possible before the world ended. While the house was still technically his, he uploaded his information to every lending app he could find, and the approvals began rolling in. He withdrew over $1 million in cash, but knowing this wasn't nearly enough, he sought out private lenders to squeeze more value from the property. By using the house as collateral again, he secured another $1.6 million, but then a notification appeared showing a staggering $6 million in his account. It seems that after knowing her for so long, he was only just discovering that Wanting was actually quite wealthy, with millions in pocket money. He didn't dwell on the surprise for long. With Wanting's financial support, he could now accomplish far more than he had originally planned. He recalled how, in his previous life, Wanting had desperately tried to reach him during the invasion, only to be intercepted by a powerful enemy. For a priest to hold off a level 90 boss alone meant her gear must have been extraordinary, suggesting she would have bought it herself anyway. With that in mind, he sent a voice message to Fatty Zhang, instructing him to buy up every single pet egg available on the market. He told Zhang to synthesize them immediately, to which the merchant cheerfully agreed, noting that he seemed to be stockpiling for a grand finale. Before long, over 500 pet eggs arrived in his inbox, which he promptly sent over to Wanting so they could begin the synthesis process together. In the world of New Era, pets are incredibly powerful combat partners, often making the difference between life and death in a difficult fight. However, to truly maximize their potential, they must match the owner's class, and creating a high-level egg requires an immense amount of luck. This is exactly why high-tier pets are so rare in this game. 10 minutes later, Su Wanting announced in the team channel that she was ready. In the past, synthesizing items worth millions would have made his heart race, but having already experienced death itself, he wasn't so easily shaken. He opened the egg, and as the blinding light faded, an exotic beast's cry echoed as a creature appeared. It was a juvenile stegosaurus with a row of fan-shaped spikes on its back, a pet with incredibly high defense that could protect its master. It could absorb 80% of incoming damage, which was quite good, though it didn't quite reach the extraordinary standard he sought. Wanting, however, was absolutely delighted by how cute it was. He had no use for such a pet, but if she liked it, it would serve her well. And so, we see them continue to open the remaining eggs. Before long, a brilliant, dazzling light began to emanate from a colorful egg. The radiance was so intense it suggested something truly legendary was about to emerge from within. Nearby players took notice, marking him as a wealthy target. A moment later, a team invite popped up, only to be immediately retracted. He realized instantly that he was being watched by gold hunters. You see, in this game, there are no real-world laws to restrain the wicked. These dark-hearted players kill and loot without hesitation, calling themselves gold hunters. To be honest, they are little more than vultures. He felt nothing but contempt for them, silently warning that if they provoked him, he would hunt them until their inventories were stripped bare. Of course, since his gear and pets weren't fully upgraded yet, he had no intention of leaving the safety of the main city just yet. As the brilliant light finally settled, the pet Wanting had summoned appeared, a stunning fusion of a vermilion bird and a phoenix, the vermilion phoenix. Upon seeing its talent skills, he was utterly shocked. As a mythic-grade pet, it possessed massive burst damage and the power of rebirth. A prompt appeared asking who should claim the pet. Before he could even speak, Wanting immediately waived her rights to the creature. She smiled, noting that since it was a fire-based magic pet, it was the perfect match for his class, and he should be the one to take it. She promised to protect him with her stegosaurus while he handled the damage. Seeing her sincerity, he didn't argue and accepted the gift. Suddenly, a world announcement flashed. Congratulations to player Ling Feng for obtaining the server's only mythic quality pet, the Vermilion Phoenix. The once quiet world channel exploded instantly, filled with players marveling at such incredible luck. And this was only the beginning. Some players mocked him, pointing out that with the servers closing soon, summoning a Vermilion Phoenix was a waste of money that he'd only enjoy for a few days. But because this game was so immersive and ahead of its time, there were still many people like Su Wanting who intended to play until the very last second. Ling Feng ignored the chatter on the world channel. He had far too much to do. Before long, Fatty Zhang sent over another batch of items for him. The haul included a set of level 100 priest gear, numerous enhancement stones, various talismans, and even rare reagent recipes. All of these things, as we can imagine, were vital for his plan. After paying, he traded the priest gear to Wanting and told her they would soon head out to farm treasure maps. He had a friend collect 200 maps, hoping to find divine beast or bloodline pills to boost their power before they challenged the Heavenly Palace. Wanting was absolutely thrilled, as visiting the Heavenly Palace had always been her dream. To be honest, it was the most difficult dungeon in Phantom Era. In the past, only whales who spent hundreds of millions could clear it, but now, having spent just over $1 million, he already possessed god-tier equipment. The two of them teleported away together. He had hoped to shake off the gold hunters, but they were persistent enough to follow them. Just then, a message arrived. Fatty Zhang confirmed he had secured the staff of the Great Bee God, along with a pair of void rings, storage items capable of holding 1,000 objects. Ling Feng was delighted and told him to mail them immediately. These items would be incredibly useful, not just in the game, but in the reality to come. After settling the trade, he and Wanting cleared all the treasure maps, feeding every divine beast pill they found to their pets. In an instant, the Vermilion Phoenix and the Stegosaurus evolved into divine pets comparable to level 70 bosses. With that finished, he turned to Wanting. He suggested they head to Tianhua City. The reason for this specific destination was simple. It was a private territory where they could be safe. Once he secured the city lord permissions, he immediately appointed Wanting as the vice city lord. By the time they finished, it was already quite late. After making sure Wanting was asleep, he finally let out a long sigh and drifted off. The next morning, however, he was jolted awake by a phone call. An unfamiliar male voice asked if he was Mr. Ling Feng. The man introduced himself as by Haixing, the client who had purchased Ling Feng's house. Haixing explained he had bought the house for his daughter, but since she had never lived away from home, the city felt too strange and lonely for her. Because of this, he asked Ling Feng not to move out just yet. He wanted him to stay in the house and help look after her. It was a strange request, certainly, but in this world, things were about to become much stranger than a simple living arrangement. His daughter, Bai Shuyi, immediately ran to Su Wanting and cheered that everything was ready, promising to give Ling Feng a massive surprise tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, he didn't think much of it and drifted back to sleep, only to be jolted awake shortly after by a persistent knocking at the door. Irritated, he called out that he had already received his delivery and they must have the wrong house. As a shut-in, visitors who weren't delivery drivers were rare. Instead, a woman's voice responded, asking if this was Ling Feng's home and introducing herself as Shuyi, Bai Haixing's daughter. He was instantly stunned. Wasn't she supposed to arrive tomorrow? He checked the time, 10 o'clock at night. It seemed she had decided to arrive in the middle of the night instead. He opened the door, and what met his eyes was no monster, but a stunning beauty with long black hair, delicate features, and a figure straight out of a manhwa. Seeing him staring blankly, Shiyi felt a prickle of annoyance, wondering why Wanting would stop playing games with her just because of a man like this. He snapped back to reality and quickly invited her inside, asking with a smile how she had arrived so late and if she had driven herself. Shiyi nodded as she scanned the house, confirming she had driven. His eyes lit up. A family that could drop 3 million on a house surely had a valuable car. In his mind, he was already calculating its mortgage value, as more cash was always better. While he plotted, Shiyi suddenly asked if he still played Phantom Era. He confirmed that not only was he playing, but he intended to stay until the very last second before the servers closed. As it turned out, she felt the same. The moment they began discussing the game, their shared passion bridged the gap, and the lingering awkwardness between them vanished instantly. Shiyi laughed, explaining she was a level 100 warrior aiming to become a Valkyrie. He smiled and invited her to join them for a new dungeon run. He was confident they could get the first clear and its rich rewards, but Shiyi looked at him skeptically, wondering what the point was with the shutdown looming. Then, she suddenly asked if he truly didn't remember her, specifically, her in-game persona, Little Birdie. He froze for a moment in realization. It finally clicked. She was indeed the player known as Little Birdie. He remembered back to when he was just a novice starting out in Phantom Era. During an early dungeon team-up with Wanting, there had been another female character in the party. That character had been Little Birdie herself. Back then, she had seemed like such a small, delicate girl in the virtual world. Seeing her in person, however, he realized her username was quite misleading. After some light-hearted bickering, they both headed to their rooms to rest. Since they had been teammates who argued constantly in the game, living together felt surprisingly natural. But then, a sudden thought occurred to him. He suddenly realized that given her close relationship with Sue Wanting, his decision to sell the house was likely no secret at all. He quickly sent Wanting a message, asking if she already knew everything. About 10 minutes later, Wanting replied that she'd been in the shower and asked if Shiyi had arrived yet, teasing him about the beautiful surprise. He messaged back that it was more of a shock than a surprise. It finally made sense why she'd been so hesitant when logging off earlier. She knew his secret all along. Wanting replied immediately, asking how she could not know. She admitted that while she thought he was foolish for selling his house for her dream, she truly loved the gesture. She even added a shy emoji, leading him to joke that this must be why she hadn't hesitated to hand over her entire secret savings to him. Seeing her reply, he felt a wave of relief, and they began chatting happily. Even though they were only a couple in-game and had never met, we see their bond was deep. Years of spending days and nights together had made them no different from real-life lovers. He told her that houses can always be earned back later in life. He even promised to buy her an even bigger, better home after they married. For now, his only goal was to stay by her side until the very end of the game. He knew the server shutdown was hurting her, even if she didn't show it. His words moved Wanting deeply. And who could blame her, really? It might have sounded like a grand romantic gesture, but he had actually sold his home to play with her. She replied, wondering what to do now that he'd completely won her over. After a while, he said he needed to sleep, but Wanting was far too happy to rest. Instead, she pulled Shiyi into a conversation to gush about her happiness. Her words were so full of love that even Shiyi, who usually had no interest in men, couldn't help but comment that Wanting wouldn't need her anymore with such a boyfriend. There was a hint of jealousy in her tone. However, as soon as she finished chatting with Wanting, Shiyi immediately opened a different message thread with someone labeled Guild Leader. She reported to the leader that she had investigated Ling Feng and found he didn't actually have any inside information about the game's future. According to her, he was only pouring money into the game because of his in-game partner, her best friend, who wanted to visit every corner of the world before it ended. The guild leader thanked her for the hard work and instructed her to keep talking to him, asking her to report any new information immediately. Shiyi assured the leader she would, then finally turned off her phone. After driving for several hours, she was exhausted and fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow. On the other side of the wall, however, Ling Feng couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, Phantom Era would release the official announcement confirming the server shut down once and for all. At that moment, prices would plummet to their lowest. He needed to use Shiyi's luxury car to secure more cash quickly, all while keeping his true intentions hidden. He had to be careful. After his recent bold moves, he was certain that several powerful players in the game were already watching him from the shadows. The official announcement claimed the game's core, the Star Stone, came from outer space and had run out of energy. They offered no compensation whatsoever. Instead, they announced a 5-year plan for a Blue Star version, effectively declaring that every player's account and divine gear were now completely worthless. The official website and forums exploded instantly. Unable to handle the blow, players began a desperate wave of account destruction, smashing their own items. They shattered divine weapons and burned materials in protest. But in the eyes of the reborn Ling Feng, this abandoned data would become life-saving treasures. In just half a month, these would be divine artifacts. Seeing the perfect time to harvest, Ling Feng immediately called his childhood friend, Zhang Chunlin. By now, the price of gold had collapsed. 100 million gold coins cost a mere 1,000 yuan. Suppressing his excitement, he gave Chunlin a cold order. He told Fatty Zhang to start buying, starting with 100 billion gold. He wanted everything available, including all top-tier crafting materials and rare treasures. He ordered him to bundle them at the lowest possible prices. Facing Chuanlin's desperate questions about inside information, Ling Feng offered only a calm warning. He claimed there was no inside scoop, but advised that if Chunlin trusted him, he should keep his account and stockpile life-saving items. He then hung up. Looking at the screen filled with insults and videos of players deleting accounts, a cold smile touched his lips. As he looked up, he saw Shuyi watching him. She was staring intently. His frantic talk of sweeping up millions in goods, wanting as much as possible, had clearly reached her ears, word for word. At this moment, Ling Feng was well aware that his unusual behavior had attracted the attention of various factions, especially the woman standing before him. As an elder of the Snow Drifting for Miles Guild, Shuyi was an old acquaintance and Su Wanting's best friend, yet she found his actions utterly baffling. She couldn't understand how a sane man, on the very day the game was sentenced to death, would sell his house and take loans just to spend more. Why pour money into a vanishing virtual world? In her eyes, Ling Feng was either insane or his brain had been fried by some strange obsession. She looked him straight in the eye, her voice heavy with seriousness and confusion. She asked him to be honest about whether he was doing something illegal. She wondered if he was prepared to ruin his entire life just to satisfy Su Wanting's whims within the game. Ling Feng, however, offered no explanation. He remained silent, letting her reach her own conclusions. To be honest, the truth was far more unbelievable than any lie he could have told her. She sighed, her tone softening as she warned that if he truly lost everything and couldn't even afford to eat, she would remember their time as comrades. She promised that for the sake of their past battles, she'd at least feed him, and even offered to help him with the Su family if he hit rock bottom. As Shi offered to lend him money for his expenses, Ling Feng felt a slight tremor in his heart, looking at this well-meaning warning and thinking she was a foolish girl. In half a month, this money wouldn't even be worth the paper it was printed on. Only the materials he was stockpiling now would be their tickets to survival. After sending away the heavy-hearted Shuyi, we see him return to his computer. While the real-world resource gathering was left to Zhang Chunlin, he had other plans. Inside the world of Fantasy Era, he had a plan that was even more expensive and far more insane. So he headed straight for the capital city's recruitment hall. Standing there were 4 top-tier NPCs who had been ignored by the entire server: Forging Master Duan Zhutian and Alchemy Master Yao Linglong. Joining them were Array Master Kuei Shan and Tailoring Master Lin Xiaoqiao. In this world, these 4 represented the absolute pinnacle of secondary professions. However, because their recruitment conditions were incredibly harsh, requiring massive amounts of gold and rare materials, no guild had been willing to support them. Now that the official shutdown notice was out, everyone was busy dismissing their NPCs to recoup costs. To be honest, it seemed like the only logical move. In the eyes of ordinary players, these 4 were nothing more than high-level code about to be erased, complete and utter digital trash. But Ling Feng knew perfectly well that in 15 days, these NPCs would be his foundation. Duan Zhutian alone could forge divine weapons for the coming apocalypse. With Yao Linglong crafting life-saving pills, his Sky Leap City would possess the only top-tier industrial system on the entire Blue Star. Without a moment's hesitation, he transferred 500 million gold coins to sign them to lifetime contracts. Yes, he was going all in. The system announcement immediately flashed across every screen, congratulating Ling Feng on recruiting the 4 masters, leaving the world channel in a deathly silence. Then, a wave of frantic mockery erupted, with players asking if he had money to burn, spending 500 million on NPCs that couldn't be saved. They mocked him for choosing to be buried with the game, but as he watched the screen fill with insults, Ling Feng remained completely unmoved. Items that were once treated like sacred oaths were now piled up like roadside trash, so he gave Zhang Chunlin a final, absolute order. He wanted more than just gold. He wanted every top-tier crafting material, beast soul, and rare treasure available, buying up as much as they could find. On the other end of the line, Chuanlin's hands were shaking, unable to understand why his friend was throwing 10 million in cash into a doomed pit. He begged for the truth, asking if the developers were secretly planning a data transfer. Otherwise, they'd both be sleeping in cardboard boxes by tomorrow. Hearing that tentative tone, Ling Feng felt a wave of emotion. As lifelong friends, he truly wanted to save him, but he wondered if Chunlin could actually believe him. How much he survives would depend entirely on his own luck. Ling Feng didn't reveal the truth about the coming apocalypse, simply telling him calmly that there was no inside info. He suggested that Chunlin work on his own account too, keeping as many high-level potions and life-saving items as possible. Trust us, in this world, that advice is worth its weight in gold. He told his friend this would be far more meaningful than the numbers in his bank account. After a long silence, Zhang Chunlin finally gritted his teeth, said okay, and hung up. We see him watching his inventory fill with top-tier resources, and the blueprint for Sky Leap City finally became clear. To be honest, the other players were still just laughing at him. They saw him as a fool taking over a sinking ship, never suspecting that in 15 days, when the dimensions overlap, these worthless materials would be the only currency for survival. Holding billions in resources gathered by Zhang Chunlin, he returned to Sky Leap City with the 4 masters. Everything was now in place for the next phase of his plan. It was time for his mage god set to undergo a true transformation. In the world of fantasy era, equipment enhancement was a bottomless pit that swallowed fortunes whole. After reaching level 12, the success rate for every subsequent upgrade was low enough to drive a person mad, and if you failed, the equipment would simply shatter into dust. That was why almost no one on the server dared to push for high-level enhancements. But he had the forging master, Dronzer, on his side to tilt the odds. Combined with the secret enhancement techniques he brought back from his past life, sparks began to fly from the anvil. The system notifications started flashing like rapid gunfire. Success at plus 13, then plus 15. The golden radiance was becoming so intense it could practically blind any passerby who happened to be watching. As the final eternal crystal shattered, a bolt of dark gold lightning streaked across the sky. The server's first ever plus 18 mage god set had officially been born. He opened his attribute panel to take a look, and even with his memories of the future, he broke into a cold sweat. His magic attack power had soared to 78,000. His movement speed was now high enough to leave afterimages behind. These stats had completely shattered the game's balance. It was, quite frankly, absurd. Top players and elite guilds were now nothing more than dust he could sweep away with a wave of his hand. Su Wanting, watching from the side, was utterly speechless. She looked at him with genuine concern, asking if the system would mistake him for a cheater and ban his account for stacking his attributes so high. He gave a faint smile and patted her head, telling her not to worry. The operating company was currently too overwhelmed with their own problems to care about one player. Besides, he wasn't doing this to play king in a game. He needed absolute power to protect her in the hellish apocalypse that would arrive in just half a month. With his divine gear complete, it was time to head to the southern heaven gate to claim the reward that belonged to him. A little later, we find him at the dungeon entrance. Half an hour later, the battle inside the Southern Heaven Gate dungeon had reached a fever pitch. Ling Feng and his companion were now coordinating their final, massive output. We see Jian Long struggling at the front to hold back the pressure, while Su Wanting, acting as the priest, never lets the holy light of healing stop for even a single moment. She is the only veteran keeping the team from a total wipeout. Ling Feng calmly directs her, warning that they can pull at most 2 great ape generals at once, and never more. They must not exceed 3, because these elite monsters possess a ghostly skill similar to a monkey plucking hairs. Once they take massive area of effect damage, they react instantly. They will immediately summon a sea of great apes to join the fray. Although Ling Feng is now clad in divine gear, if he gets trapped in an endless mob, that 50-minute clear time will be in jeopardy. 10 minutes later, the effects of Storm Field and Heaven's incineration finally dissipate. By now, the corpses of great apes are piled up like mountains across the ground. Both Ling Feng and Su Wanting have seen their levels soar to 102, yet 3,000 small mobs still remain on the field. To be honest, it's a bit of a mess. Without the large-scale crowd control skills, their efficiency drops sharply. Ling Feng makes a split-second decision to focus on clearing the elite monsters first. The remaining 12 great ape generals become targets to be taken down one by one. Jian Long steadily holds the aggro, while Ling Feng chains Windblade and Sandflame together. He triggers a blind effect and, within 5 seconds, unloads a staggering 130,000 damage. Combined with the Pigbird's flame beads, the enemy is finished. After 10 minutes of traversing the map, all elite monsters are cleared. Finally, an earth-shaking roar echoes from the center of the map. The dungeon's true terror has arrived. It is the Great Ape King, the title-sealing battle god. As he bellows, the remaining small mobs fall into a frenzy, completely ignoring Ling Feng's attacks to rally toward their king. Su Wanting looks on with worry. The Great Ape King's attack power reaches 68,000. She fears that Jian Long won't be able to withstand the pressure. Ling Feng's gaze remains firm. He tells her that if they can't hold, they must flee, and if necessary, he will step up to the front himself. At the 35-minute mark, the battle erupts. The storm field once again covers the central battlefield. The damage output from Ling Feng and the Pigbird rains down on the Great Ape King like a relentless monsoon. When the Great Ape King's health drops to 70%, he swings a berserk fist. His massive frame, towering like a mountain, causes the very earth to shatter and crack. A shockwave ripples through the ground, and Ling Feng's health instantly evaporates by 40%. The entire team has now entered a state of extreme survival risk. That earth-shattering punch from the Great Ape King completely breaks the rhythm of the battlefield. Seeing his health at less than half, Ling Feng's heart leaps into his throat. The title of Battle God is certainly not just for show. This kind of indiscriminate, full-screen area of effect damage is something he hadn't fully prepared for. At this current stage of the game, such power is quite frankly a dimensional strike against the players. It is an overwhelming force that threatens to end their run right then and there. We see the king raise his fists like twin mountains, aiming directly at the Pigbird and Jian Long who are standing firm at the front. Then, a deafening explosion rocks the earth. As dust fills the air, Jian Long, taking the brunt of the impact, lets out a cry of rage before his massive frame dissolves into white light. He has been forcibly sent back to the pet dimension. The pig bird fares even worse. Under the weight of massive physical crushing damage, its health bar vanishes instantly. Its entire body shatters into a ball of dark red fire due to the extreme heat. Su Wanting lets out a startled cry, her eyes turning red with tears in an instant. Any players watching from the sidelines would surely think Ling Feng's dream of a first clear has been utterly shattered. But at that very moment, a cold, sharp smile curls at the corner of Ling Feng's mouth. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Amidst the falling ash, a crystal-clear red orb, the size of a fist, emerges from the heart of the flames, greedily absorbing the surrounding fire elements. Suddenly, a system notification rings out like a thunderclap. It detects the bloodline of a divine beast. The pig bird has triggered its hidden skill, Nirvana. In a heartbeat, a terrifying pressure sweeps across the entire battlefield. The shattered fireball expands violently, doubling in size as a new form emerges, covered in burning golden feathers. Our little bird has undergone a rebirth. The newborn pig bird emerges with full stats and triple damage, its magic power surging past the 80,000 mark. To be honest, it's a terrifying sight to behold. The reborn bird lets out a crisp phoenix cry, breathing out a stream of golden true fire that vaporizes the surrounding mobs instantly before slamming directly into the great ape king's chest. Ling Feng isn't idling either. With bloodshot eyes, he seizes the moment the boss is stunned by the Nirvana pressure. He pours every drop of his mana into his staff, unleashing one final, enhanced wind blade chained burst that pierces through the great ape king with a piercing whistle. Amidst the smoke and a final, unwilling roar, the self-proclaimed battle god collapses. Right on time, the server-wide announcement echoes for everyone to hear. It congratulates the team formed by Ling Feng and Su Wanting for achieving the first clear of the Southern Heaven Gate dungeon with a record time of 43 minutes and 52 seconds. They are awarded a 100-fold experience bonus. Ling Feng exhales slowly, watching his level soar all the way to 113. He knows that this is merely the first step in establishing absolute dominance before the apocalypse arrives. But while Ling Feng and Su Wanting are busy sharing this moment in the dungeon, the respawn point in the firmament capital has descended into absolute chaos. A beautiful young streamer named Lin Xiaoya is posting a tearful complaint. She laments that just as she reached level 30, she was targeted by gold snatchers. Even the professional power levelers she hired were stripped of all their gear. Meanwhile, those bandits, a group of psychopathic hunters known as Ghost Force, are lurking outside Sky Moon City. They had intended to ambush Ling Feng, but since Ling Feng hasn't left the dungeon yet, they've turned their attention to bullying newcomers just to earn a few $100. Meanwhile, back inside, Ling Feng doesn't give these clowns a second thought. He and Su Wanting are busy exploiting the dungeon mechanics to farm the giant generals relentlessly. The generals constantly summon new warriors, creating a perfect natural training ground. After 2 hours of high-intensity grinding, Ling Feng and Su Wanting find their levels have soared to 115, while the pig bird and Jianlong have hit level 120. Having gathered their spoils, the two finally log out to grab some lunch. Before leaving, Ling Feng returns to Sky Moon City to place an order for another 1,000 sets of handmade equipment. His logic is quite sound. While top-tier 9-star gear is rare, one can extract perfect attributes from a massive volume of handmade items. He then plans to use the Heavenly Palace crystals purchased by Zhang Chunlin to transfer those stats onto basic 9-star gear, essentially mass-producing god-tier equipment. In the living room, his roommate Bai Shui passes along a meeting request from guild leader Xue Mo. Ling Feng takes over the cooking for lunch. Years of living as an orphan have made him quite the chef. Bai Shui jokes that Su Wanting will be very lucky in the future. After eating, Ling Feng logs back in and adds Xue Mo. This top female guild leader possesses a remarkably high emotional intelligence. Instead of trying to pressure him with her status, she approaches him with genuine respect. Just then, a massive delivery arrives in his mailbox from Zhang Chunlin. 1,000 Heavenly Palace crystals priced at 80,000 and 100 colorful pet eggs for 100,000. Without blinking, Ling Feng pays the 1.3 million. Zhang Chunlin sends a message complaining that Yi Tenglong is still mocking Ling Feng in the class group chat. Zhang was so annoyed he quit the group to follow Ling Feng as his boss. Ling Feng simply smiles and tells him to keep driving prices down and sweeping the market. As for those 100 colorful eggs, Ling Feng doesn't plan to release them. Instead, he recruits a large group of professional pet trainers at the city lord's mansion. We see that a high-level beastmaster can manage a vast number of creatures simultaneously. To be honest, the potential power here is staggering. Even more crucial is that a possessed pet can provide the character with up to 45% of its total attributes. Ling Feng spends 60 million gold in Sky Moon City to secure a base and hires 30 top-tier trainers. Then, he begins a frantic egg-opening spree. He cracks all 100 eggs at once. Although no mythical pets appear, he does manage to get 6 pet group banners and 4 epic pets. Ling Feng stores the perfect quality pets at the base for cultivation, carefully preparing each one. He completes the soul-binding process and carefully selects 3 epic pets for Su Wanting, including a tank warrior and a mage. These additions perfectly cover Su Wanting's lack of solo damage output. Meanwhile, Ling Feng chooses two powerful pets for himself to ensure his survival. One is the Snow Girl, a control-focused pet with high magic attack, ice stasis survival skills, and a natural immunity to negative status effects. The other is the Flying Mouse, an assassin pet with terrifying speed and stealth. Once possessed, it allows Ling Feng to truly move like the wind. With the pets settled, Ling Feng begins identifying those 2,000 sets of level 100 handmade gear. After half an hour of work, his luck explodes. He manages to pull 8 pieces of 9-star handmade gear. Though the initial attributes are lackluster, he uses the Heavenly Palace crystals to refine them. He crafts a Red Moon belt and a priest's cloak for Su Wanting, maxing out every single stat. Her healing effectiveness immediately jumps by 30%. This instantly brings Su Wanting to her in-game build as a priest. For himself, Ling Feng custom makes a wind-type belt and a resonant cloak. After enhancing everything to plus 18 and equipping them, Ling Feng's level 115 attribute panel is nothing short of terrifying. His magic attack reaches 79,000, and his movement speed surges to 34.2 yards per second. With his gear bonuses, all his skill levels reach level 13. This data is impressive even when compared to high-level mages. At this moment, Su Wanting logs back in. Ling Feng hands over the god-tier gear and pets, and the two prepare to continue treasure hunting. Su Wanting softly asks if he can take her to the Heavenly Palace once they reach level 100. Ling Feng dotes on her and agrees. However, surprises always appear when least expected. While digging through 500 premium maps, they find 10 eternal crystals and something else. Ling Feng actually unearths a fragment of the God-slaying array. This is a rank 9 city defense formation capable of trapping even gods. Recognizing its strategic value, he immediately contacts Zhang Chunlin with a strict order: buy up the remaining fragments at any cost. He has a feeling this array might become Sky Moon City's ultimate trump card. Having finished the day's grind, Ling Feng prepares to log out. Just as he is about to rest, there is a knock on the door. His roommate, Bai Shuyi, asks Ling Feng to accompany him to school tomorrow. To Bai Shuyi, this is just normal mutual aid between roommates. After all, he once offered to lend Ling Feng money. But for the reborn Ling Feng, there is only cold laughter in his heart. Studying seems pointless when even modern weapons can't stop a level 80 black dragon. To Ling Feng, going to school on the eve of the apocalypse is a complete waste of life. He knows only the magic from the game can stop the coming disaster. Right in front of Bai Shuyi, Ling Feng contacts his instructor and requests a 3-day leave, boldly declaring he will only return to school after the game invades. Early the next morning, April 16th, with only 12 days left until the end of the world, we see Ling Feng taking a final inventory of his assets. Sky Moon City is packed, 100 warehouses full of resources, over 90 high-level pets, and 3 massive NPC armies of knights, warriors, and mages. His preparations within the game are essentially complete. Now, he tells himself, there is only one goal left: to conquer the new dungeon and max out his pet gear. Upon logging in, Ling Feng joins Su Wanting's party. We find Shuemo, Xiao Niaoyi Ran, and Bai Shuyi have been waiting there for quite some time. While waiting for the final member, Zhang Chunlin, to log on, Ling Feng learns from the group that their real-world class chat has absolutely exploded. The instructor has singled Ling Feng out for his long-term absences. Meanwhile, his old rival, Yi Tenglong, is taking the opportunity to mock him mercilessly. Yi Tenglong even threatens to report him to the Academic Affairs Office. Ling Feng intends to ignore it, but then he notices something quite unexpected. Zhang Chunlin, usually a timid IT guy, has transformed into a keyboard warrior, taking on the entire class alone. When Yi Tenglong brings up his thug brother, Zhang Chunlin doesn't flinch. He fires back, telling Yi that while he might have a brother in the underworld, Zhang has 3,000 internet trolls ready to strike. He threatens to put both brothers on the national news if they push him. Seeing Zhang Chunlin risk offending the city's biggest local thug just to defend him, Ling Feng feels a surge of warmth. This childhood friend never overcharged him a single cent, even when Ling Feng was on the brink of bankruptcy in his past life. Such loyalty makes Zhang a friend truly worth trusting with one's life. As for Yi Tenglong, Ling Feng doesn't even bother to lift an eyelid. In his memories, Yi Tenglong was among the first cowards to sell his account and flee the game. In 12 days, when the worlds overlap, these so-called local thugs and rich heirs won't even be considered ants to someone like Ling Feng, who will possess extraordinary power. A little later, Zhang Chunlin logs in and the 5-person team is ready. Their target is the new Heavenly Palace dungeon, titled Chaos in the Heavenly Palace. The lore is grand, depicting the decline of the celestial realm through a blend of Eastern and Western fantasy, featuring the South Heaven Gate and 12 divine halls. It is a complex system of scheming deities. This time, the Great Ape King, a boss players used to farm at the South Gate, makes a terrifying reappearance. Now level 120 with 2 million health, its attack power is high enough to one-shot even Ling Feng. And that, as it turns out, is only the beginning. We also see 11 other demon lords, including the Flame Demon Hydra, joining the siege in a truly breathtaking display as our 5-person team finally assembles. The guild leader, Shuemo, suggests they start on normal difficulty just to get a feel for it. Ling Feng agrees. After all, even a normal clear rewards a supreme treasure box. At this point, the team's composition is arguably the best in the server, featuring the top wind mage, Ling Feng, and the top priest, Su Wanting. Our third-ranked warrior is Bai Shi, who stands ready alongside Xiaonyao. Ren. Normal difficulty proves to be no obstacle at all. Interestingly, the pet pig bird not only shows high intelligence, but contributes 26% of the total damage. This comes as quite a blow to Bai Shi's pride. As a top-tier warrior, her damage output is actually lower than a pet's. To be honest, she was visibly shaken. She immediately vows to buy 10,000 colorful eggs just to hatch an even stronger divine beast. Zhang Chunlin notes that the market for these eggs is currently quite depressed. But Bai Shi and Su Wanting don't care about market trends. They just want to enjoy the game. Soon after, the team steps up the challenge to hard difficulty. Ling Feng unleashes his full power, leading the group at a blistering pace. While the others are busy clearing mobs, we see that Bai Shi is actually serious about those eggs. She begins opening them right there in the dungeon. Half an hour later, just as they face the level 120 Great Ape King, a divine light suddenly descends upon her. Against all odds, Bai Shi actually hatches a mythical-grade pet, the Celestial Hound. When the team sees its stats, the excitement is palpable. It has an SS+ overall rating. Its physical attack growth is astronomical, and it possesses 3 god-tier skills: Unyielding Will, Ancient Bloodline, and Frenzied Devour. For every 1% of health lost, its attack and defense increase. It even boasts a 50% health boost and 30% lifesteal. It is, quite simply, the perfect invincible companion for a close combat fighter. However, in a moment of pure absurdity, Bai Shi's first reaction to this divine beast is one of total disgust. It turns out she was bitten by a dog as a child, leaving her with a psychological scar so deep she'd rather have a cat than a celestial hound. Ling Feng, joking around, offers to trade her his flying mouse, which only makes her scream louder. Apparently, she's terrified of mice too. Despite the comedy, the team secures 2 more clears, leaving Ling Feng with 2 supreme treasure boxes in his inventory. Seeing Bai Shi's incredible luck, even Shuemo is tempted to try her hand. She suspects the drop rates for divine beasts have spiked. Ling Feng, feeling quite satisfied, announces they will continue their run. His goal is to farm 8 supreme treasure boxes today to complete his pet's god-tier gear. Little did they know, this straightforward plan was about to get complicated. The server's top dungeon has somehow turned into a massive egg-opening party for our team. Under Ling Feng's leadership, the group easily sweeps through the hard difficulty. They conquer Nightmare difficulty next, and the number of supreme treasure boxes in their hands continues to grow. Even Zhang Chunlin joins the egg-opening frenzy with great passion, but luck, as it turns out, is clearly not on his side. After opening 50 eggs, he gets only 1 legendary pet, causing him to cry out in pain and vow never to spend again. Meanwhile, Shuemo and Bai Shi, our 2 wealthy ladies, take advantage of the pre-merger price crash to snatch up thousands more colorful eggs. They continue their spree as we see that at this moment in the world of fantasy era, the consumption of resources is reaching staggering levels. Players across the entire server are frantically dumping 20 years of accumulated wealth. Ironically, this massive volume of openings has pushed the probability of obtaining high-tier pets to a new peak. Stop opening eggs and focus. We're starting hell difficulty, Ling Feng commands. Our team steps into the most terrifying stage of all, the hell-level havoc in heaven, which feels strangely eerie. After the physical bodies of the first 11 demon lords are destroyed, they actually transform into soul forms and flee toward the final map. Both Bai Shi and Shuemo find this puzzling, wondering if this difficulty level makes the bosses impossible to kill. Ling Feng, however, senses an opportunity in this strange turn of events. He suspects this might be a new gameplay mechanic unlocked after level 120. As they reach the final throne, a dramatic scene unfolds. The Great Ape King brutally devours the souls of the other 11 demon lords. His health instantly skyrockets to a truly staggering 3 million points. Transforming into a 100-meter giant, he looks like King Kong reborn. With just a single basic attack, he strips 50,000 health from Zhang Chunlin. This terrifying output, which completely ignores defense, makes everyone feel the cold breath of death. At this critical moment, Ling Feng displays the true colors of a reincarnated visionary. He instructs the team not to draw aggro or use crowd control. Instead, everyone must quickly find one of the massive thrones and stand upon it. They are only allowed to use damage skills. He even tells the priest not to heal. Although Bai Shi looks completely bewildered, she follows his lead. Then, a truly miraculous scene occurs. Because the thrones trigger a specific line of code, the massive Great Ape King finds himself unable to lock onto any targets on the thrones. He can only wander aimlessly between the 5 thrones like a headless fly. With the help of this convenient bug, the 3 million HP boss becomes nothing more than a practice target. As the Great Ape King finally collapses, server-wide announcements begin to flash frantically. Ling Feng's team has not only secured the first clear, but also obtained an extremely precious rare job treasure box. What? really causes the player base to explode is the system's subsequent announcement. The level 120 soul cultivation system is now open, and the prestige system is officially online. The World Chat channel has reached a state of absolute frenzy. At a moment when most people have already given up hope, only Ling Feng knows that this so-called soul cultivation is the true capital needed to survive the coming apocalypse. Ling Feng has become truly famous this time, but not because of his skills in fantasy era. Rather, it is because he is now known across the internet as the world's #1 sucker. In a situation where the game has announced a permanent shutdown with zero compensation, Ling Feng sold his property and borrowed millions just to pour it into the game. This mysterious move was leaked by his classmates, instantly igniting public opinion. In no time, Ling Feng became a regular fixture on every major short video platform. Countless creators posted videos mocking him. Some said he squandered his parents' legacy, while others called him the biggest fool in gaming history. Some even fabricated stories about his childhood. Online, the reviews are almost entirely negative, and Ling Feng has been labeled as brainless and a complete idiot. However, in an era where traffic is king, even negative fame is still fame. Ling Feng soon began receiving all sorts of interview requests from various outlets. The school's propaganda department wanted to interview him for their Joke Talk segment, and Longhai TV's Contemporary Youth program also wanted him to record a show. Even the official Quyin platform went so far as to offer him an $80,000 signing bonus to join their ranks. Yi Tenglong and his group, who had been mocking Ling Feng with sarcastic remarks, felt a wave of extreme jealousy upon learning he was going to be on TV in the capital. Meanwhile, Zhang Chunlin, who has a crush on Jiang Tingting, also received an interview request because of his connection to Ling Feng. He was so excited, he called Ling Feng his own brother. Su Wanting, however, was filled with worry during their phone call. She assumed Ling Feng only agreed to be paraded like a monkey before the national audience because he was desperate for money, and she even offered to ask her family for funds to help him. Ling Feng felt a warmth in his heart as he comforted her, explaining he simply wanted to share his journey. He promised to log in every day to watch the scenery with her. After hanging up the phone, Ling Feng began planning his content. He knows the apocalyptic crisis is imminent, but since he cannot reveal the secret of his rebirth, he must be careful. He plans to use a prophetic dream as an excuse, utilizing the national broadcast to issue a final warning to the public and even the military. At the same time, he once again reminded Zhang Chunlin that the in-game acquisitions must not stop. Even if prices continue to plummet, they must sweep up all goods, especially the God-slaying array fragment. They must secure it even at 10 times the price. For Ling Feng, these resources are his ultimate capital for the future. Wednesday finally arrived, the day for recording the Contemporary Youth program. Despite being labeled the internet's biggest sucker, Ling Feng did not appear destitute or miserable as everyone expected. Instead, he calmly stepped into Bai Shiyi's private car, looking perfectly composed as he headed out. Young Zhang Chunlin calls to report on the market, where massive amounts of supreme saturation are being dumped by various gaming studios. We see Ling Feng's eyes light up. This is the core material needed for top-tier pet equipment. After all, when the sellers demand a firm price of 1,000 per unit, Ling Feng reveals the cold ruthlessness of a true businessman. He offers 600, telling them to take it or leave it before the official servers shut down forever. Deep down, he knows this isn't just about hoarding. It's a stepping stone to recruit elite gold farmers later. Bai Shiyi watches him spend so recklessly and can't help but ask if he has inside information. Ling Feng just laughs it off, keeping the secret of his rebirth to himself for now. As they leave the neighborhood, they are blocked by Yi Tenglong and his local thug of a brother, Yi Tinghu. Tenglong starts shouting for Ling Feng to pay back his debts immediately. Facing the heavily tattooed Tinghu, Ling Feng remains unnaturally calm. He pushes away the stun baton Shiyi offers and steps out of the car alone. He sees the situation for what it is. Tenglong is just jealous of his viral fame and wants to cause trouble, while Tinghu is simply worried that a celebrity might skip out on a debt. Ignoring the shouting younger brother, Ling Feng tosses out a temptation. He tells Tinghu that instead of 3 months, he will pay in 1, with an extra million on top. It's a simple choice: cause trouble or make a fortune. In the face of such profit, family loyalty proves to be quite fragile. Tinghu doesn't hesitate for long before making his decision. He demands Ling Feng sign a new IOU for 3 million on the spot. Ling Feng complies, even taking a moment to insult Tenglong by calling him a dog blocking the road. When Tenglong loses his temper and tries to strike, Tinghu, determined to protect his new golden goose, swings first. He slaps his own brother across the face, forcing Tenglong to bow and apologize to Brother Feng. To be honest, it was a rather satisfying turn of events. Watching Tenglong's humiliation, Ling Feng departs without a word. In this gamble of human nature, he has bought himself precious time to prepare. At this moment, he is only a 30-minute drive away from the studio where he will deliver his apocalyptic prophecy to the entire nation. He had signed that $3 million IOU without a hint of hesitation. Inside the car, Bai Shiyi is utterly baffled by his logic. She asks if that one slap was really worth an extra $1 million. Ling Feng only smiles, knowing the Yi brothers will never see a cent of that money. By the time he returns from the capital, the world will have changed. Two ordinary men with no inherited game abilities are destined to become monster fodder. That IOU will be nothing more than a scrap of waste paper. On the way to the station, Ling Feng suggests Shuyi go home to be with her parents. Ling Feng knows that the game's invasion isn't just a disaster. It brings a magical energy that can cleanse the body, heal all diseases, and even regrow limbs. At this moment, the soul cultivation system in the new update of Phantom Era is the top priority. This system has completely changed the game's core logic, allowing players to use soul energy to maintain hydration and escape hunger. Along with this comes a new currency, soul crystals. They've replaced gold as the most precious consumable, ranging from common to dazzling grades with high exchange rates. A single dazzling crystal can cost 100 million gold. Knowing their true value, Ling Feng orders Zhang Chunlin to exploit the current 100,000 to 1 exchange rate to sweep up all the gold on the server. His goal is 10,000 dazzling crystals, wealth enough to by several small countries within the game. Later, we see Ling Feng enter Longhai TV to record Modern Youth, though the process is far from smooth. During the show, he openly calls out to the Dragon Kingdom's military, demanding they stop the game's rollout. The director is terrified by such bold statements and even pauses the recording. Ling Feng remains firm, asking what if his dream is real and offering to take full responsibility if they just include a disclaimer. Eventually, the director yields, and the recording is finished. It is now April 22nd. In the Longhai City Airport Lounge, with only 5 days left until the invasion, Ling Feng puts on his helmet to log in while waiting for his flight. Thanks to his dazzling crystals, his soul cultivation level is now the highest on the server. He has already obtained 3 sets of God-tier pet equipment, and his magic attack power has surpassed the 100,000 mark. But the real surprise was a drop from the Hell Dungeon. The Hidden Class Certificate for Skywalker. This is an incredibly versatile and difficult class that allows for both close quarters combat and long-range spellcasting, offering true freedom on the battlefield. Looking at the certificate, he finds himself hesitating for a moment. Becoming a Skywalker means he must abandon standard class sets and rely entirely on handcrafted gear he makes himself. However, the growth attributes of this class are simply godlike, with every rating at S rank or higher, especially the agility coefficient. At 0.05, it is double that of a wind mage. This means that once he changes classes, he will possess extreme speed and unmatched versatility. Just then, Su Wanting logs in. Since the dungeon provided 2 rewards, he hands her the other hidden class certificate for the priest class, Light Seeker. After Su Wanting changes her class, she unexpectedly triggers a hidden SSS rank quest. To be honest, their luck was becoming quite formidable. The quest is an SSS rank mission to save the Holy Maiden clan. We see Ling Feng scan the rewards, and he is utterly stunned to find a unique mythical weapon, the Holy Maiden Scepter. More importantly, owning it allows one to command the entire Holy Maiden race within the game. Deep down, he knew that once the game invaded reality, this would essentially give Su Wanting an absolutely loyal army of transcendent beings. To be honest, it was a game changer. He decided then and there to help her complete this quest once things settled down. Before boarding his flight to the capital, Zhang Chunlin called him, his voice filled with pure ecstasy. Not only had he regained his confidence in front of his crush, Jiang Yuyu, but he had also secured a batch of level 120 high-grade appraisal scrolls. The screenshots he sent solidified Ling Feng's resolve to change classes. Level 120 handcrafted gear wasn't just powerful. It also featured unprecedented skill slots and gem sockets. He immediately ordered Chunlin to sweep up every gem on the server, regardless of the cost. As he boarded his flight to the capital, he had no idea that Longhai TV, fearing the consequences, had already reported his video footage to the military. In a secret base, personnel were repeatedly studying his prophecies, while most of them dismissed the idea of a game invasion as a complete fairy tale. The old general, Lu Quan, possessed a different kind of vision. He knew the Star Stone, which served as the game's medium, had a mysterious origin and technology centuries ahead of Earth. He figured it wouldn't cost much to be safe rather than sorry. Yes, a wise precaution. General Lu finally made the call to allocate a modest budget, arranging for local garrisons to send a reinforced company into Phantom Era to create accounts. If Ling Feng could see this scene, he would be shocked to discover that the dignified General Lu Quan's features bore a striking resemblance to his in-game partner, Su Wanting. The gears of fate had truly begun to turn at the boundary of reality and illusion. At the Kuaishou headquarters in the capital, we see Ling Feng start his very first online livestream interview. Driven by his reputation as the world's biggest fool, the viewership surpassed 100,000 the moment the stream began. Sitting across from him was the host, a famous influencer named Luo Li, who boasted 30 million followers. Wrapped in filters and heavy makeup, Luo Li appeared sweet and lovely, but Ling Feng remained entirely unmoved. Facing sharp questions about why he sold his house and spent millions on a dying game, he calmly replied that it was all for the sake of that dream. and to prepare for a world that was about to change forever. He even made a shocking statement during the live broadcast. His Mage God set, which he bought for over $1 million, was now for sale for $3 million. Naturally, those who believed him would see the value. The moment Ling Feng made this offer, the live chat exploded. A flood of mockery and insults filled the screen, with viewers calling him a delusional scammer who had lost his mind. Seeing his popularity peak, the platform officials immediately arranged for him to try livestream selling. They clearly had no good intentions, pushing high profit, low-quality products onto him, hoping to squeeze out his remaining value like a disposable tool. But he agreed without a second thought. To be honest, he felt no pressure at all. He knew that once the great upheaval arrived, these buyers would never live to see their deliveries. Meanwhile, he desperately needed the capital to complete his final harvest of resources within the game. After 2 days of frantic selling, he managed to secure $8 million in profit. And just then, Shuemo actually called him. She truly intended to spend $3 million to buy that Mage God set. She said with a smile that it wasn't just for the sake of nostalgia, but to support a friend. When the news reached the stream, it caused another internet earthquake. His haters were furious. Yet they had to admit this world was becoming stranger than fiction. On the night of April 26th, armed with ample funds, he returned to his home in Longhai City. There were only 24 hours left until the game invaded reality. He immediately put on his helmet and entered the game. The crafting of level 120 God tier gear, his Skywalker class change, and Su Wanting's SSS rank hidden quest all had to be finished within this single day. Outside, the city's neon lights still shone brightly, but inside his gaming pod, he gripped his weapon and waited for the moment to arrive. To craft the ultimate 9-star gear, he exhausted nearly all of his material reserves. Not only did he have Zhang Chunlin's studio place massive orders in every major city, but he also borrowed $6 million from Baishi. Combined with his earnings from the live stream, he swept up every gold coin on the market. Orders for 10,000 sets of level 120 gear were scheduled for the following morning. This was his final grand gamble. On the morning of April 27th, the moment he opened his eyes, he sensed something was wrong. In Longhai, a coastal city near the equator, heavy snow was actually falling. He pushed open the window to see dark clouds pressing down and a wind like a knife. The news was filled with reports of abnormal weather, a super tsunami hitting the west, and fist-sized hail falling across the east. Even more bizarrely, global warships were frozen in the ocean, and every missile became a dud overnight. Science was collapsing, and myth was about to descend. He logged into the game immediately, finding his mailbox stuffed with 60,000 items sent by Zhang Chunlin. Out of 10,000 sets, there were fewer than 5 9-star masterpieces. Holding his breath, he used the heavenly crystals to re-roll their stats. 20 minutes later, the server's only perfect set was born. The level 120 mythic tier crafted gear was finally ready. Without a moment's hesitation, Ling Feng completed his class change to Skywalker, a hidden profession. Though this class forbade dual cultivation, its stats were terrifying when paired with God-tier gear. His mythic weapon, Heavenly Secret, didn't just boost all skill levels. It was also socketed with the Bloodlust gem. Meanwhile, the belt featured a skill called Mirror Curse, Time Miracle. This skill was nothing short of a cheat, as it could instantly reset all cooldowns. His attribute panel could now only be described as a monster. Both his magical and physical attacks had broken past 680,000. Most absurdly, his movement speed, stacked with agility and gear traits, reached a staggering 234 yards per second. This meant he could dash over 200 meters in a single second, twice as fast as a racing car. We see him open his newly mastered skill, Super Slide. Looking at the description, damage increases by 30% for every 100 yards of speed. A cold smile played on his lips. Now, even a basic level 1 slide would trigger enough burst damage to leave any opponent in utter despair. Outside, the snow fell harder, as if the world itself were mourning the end of civilization. But Ling Feng was now armed to the teeth. He waited quietly for high noon tomorrow, when the rift would tear the sky apart. After officially becoming a Skywalker, he stared at his skill panel for a long time, feeling that the vibe of this class was a bit unusual. It was essentially an upgraded, super-powered ambusher build. Beyond the sneak attacks and crowd control, even pure damage ultimates like Enchanted Half-Moon Slash carried that terrifying bonus where higher speed meant higher damage. Yet, that wasn't even the most broken part. The true core of a Skywalker lay in the ability to learn competitive skills from most other classes. In the City Lord's treasury, he sifted through the books Zhang Chunlin had collected. He carefully selected 2. The first was Psionic Overkill, an absolute nightmare for single targets. It delayed damage calculation while stacking heartburst layers, eventually detonating for double true damage. This meant that even if his opponent was a massive tank player, once he stacked 30 layers, that final detonation would ensure they vanished from the face of the earth. The second was 7-star Energy Surge. Originally an assassin's escape skill, it allowed 7 consecutive teleports, each granting a brief moment of invincibility. For a man who couldn't rely on dual cultivation, this wasn't just for survival. It was a lethal tool for repositioning and output. By now, his gear score had already surpassed the second-place player by 18,000 points. But it wasn't enough. He noticed the game had suddenly launched a global ranking board where only the top 100 players were ranked, and as the leader, he secured a perfect score of 100. He knew this leaderboard would determine how much power they could retain once the game invaded reality, and whether their gear stats would be nerfed. When Su Wanting logged on, he immediately traded her the level 120 mythic tier crafted set. Seeing her radiate light as her score climbed to second overall, he finally relaxed. Next, he gathered Zhang Chunlin, Shui Mo, and Bai Shuyi to help Su Wanting complete the unique SSS rank quest, saving the Saintis clan. The atmosphere in the team voice chat was incredibly heavy. Shui Mo's voice trembled as she mentioned that massive hailstorms in the north were already killing people. He calmly told them to look closer. This kind of extreme weather was all too common within the game. He urged them to check the international news. They would see that the dream he described during his live stream was becoming a reality. For a moment, the channel fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was frantically refreshing news feeds, watching reports of failing missiles and out-of-control satellites. As tsunamis swallowed cities, everyone understood deep down that time was running out for the old world. Zhang Chunlin, ever the loyal follower, shouted that he didn't quite understand but would follow the boss anywhere while spending wildly to boost his rank. We see the team embark on their final journey toward the Temple of Light. It was April 27th, the final sunset of civilization. And in this fading light, they would seize their final strength. With only a few hours left before the official server shutdown, the world's extreme weather grew even more frantic. But he knew the priority was helping Su Wanting finish that unique SSS rank quest before time expired. The rewards weren't just mythic weapons, but the absolute loyalty of the Saintis clan. On the leaderboard, he remained at the very top. That score of 100 wasn't just for glory. It was a guarantee for tomorrow's power inheritance. Under his guidance, Zhang Chunlin also pushed his score up to 93. With everything ready, our 5-man team stepped into the quest location, the Land of Exile. The place was a living hell of withered grass and decay. The moment they landed, a massive corpse worm erupted from the ground. Its 3-meter-wide maw dripped with foul, rotting liquid, a sight so disgusting that Bai Shuyi nearly gagged on the spot. To end it quickly, he activated the forbidden spell 7-star Energy Surge, teleporting around the beast in a frantic, explosive bombardment. He forced the level 150 monster into submission until it dissolved into experience points. Guided by the young Saintis, they found the Elder in a hollow tree. The survivors of the clan, a group of women with long golden hair, knelt before Su Wanting and addressed her as the Divine One. It turns out that they had been imprisoned here by the gods, serving as a food source for the level 150 world boss, the Earth Dragon King. The Saintis clan possessed a unique constitution. As long as they had the holy fruit, they could give birth to purely female offspring. In this land of exile, over 10,000 Saintises were hidden away. This meant that if the quest succeeded, Su Wanting would command a 10,000-strong army of superhumans. But to free them, they had to slay the Earth Dragon King. The monster's true form was 100 meters tall, a sight that could drive a person mad. Facing the spray of foul-smelling rot, he had Zhang Chunlin quickly procure 5 sets of ninja gear with masks to block the stench. Only then, fully armed, did they charge. Zhang Chunlin, for the first time, regretted being a knight. Zhang Chunlin closed his eyes and rushed in to draw the monster's aggro. Meanwhile, our protagonist's speed surged to 400 knots in his ultimate state. His enchanted half-moon slash landed with 2 terrifying damage numbers, one for 220,000 and another for 110,000. He keenly noticed that while the beast had high magic defense, its physical defense was low. Using the ghostly speed of the Skywalker, he dodged the ground attacks. While dealing massive damage from the rear, he used Soul Burst, Mark, and Enhanced Sap in a relentless assault. For a full minute, he circled the beast, stacking 30 layers of Starburst before detonating them all at once. The Earth Dragon King's health bar instantly evaporated by 1 million, a full third of its life. The beast let out a desperate roar and opened its massive maw. Thousands of tiny earth-tearing worms crawled out of its throat, attempting to drown our team in a sea of insects. He simply sneered and activated the forbidden spell on his belt, Time Miracle. In an instant, all of his skill cooldowns were refreshed, including the lethal Soul Burst. He knew the Earth Dragon King's end had arrived, and this, as it happened, would be humanity's final battle within the virtual world. Despite its size, the Earth Dragon King was essentially no different from a common insect. Aside from laying eggs and spitting venom, its combat power was no match for him now. In less than 2 minutes, the Earth Dragon King collapsed with a thunderous crash. Among the piles of leather materials, the most critical quest item, the Scepter of the Light Saintis, finally dropped. The moment Su Wanting grasped it, scepter, a shockwave exploded across the land of exile. The Light Saintis emerged from the hollow tree as a pillar of holy light pierced the heavens. We see the High Priestess, Kong Yan, instantly surge to level 180, stepping into what was known as the Third Awakening Realm. From her, he learned a truth that would overturn everything players thought they knew. Level 120 was merely the beginning, and level was nothing more than a number. Levels are merely containers for the soul, and only through reincarnation and breaking level caps can a soul reach the realms of the divine or the ancient sages. Eventually, one might even reach the supreme god realm. With time running out, he had Su wanting leave the Saintis clan to settle temporarily in his Sky Moon City. From Kong Yen, he learned of a forbidden shortcut to power, soul devouring. Although Kong Yen warned that consuming the souls of monsters would breed inner demons, he knew he didn't have much time left. He charged alone into the chaos of the heavenly palace, immediately switching into a state of violent harvesting. When he first crushed and swallowed a soul fragment, the system notification filled him with pure ecstasy. The devouring was a success. His soul experience increased by 500 points, a discovery that drove him into a frenzy. In the final hours before the server shut down, he farmed dungeons repeatedly. He treated the souls of those dungeon avatars as nothing more than nourishment. By 8 p.m., his soul cultivation had been forced up to the 5th rank. All of his attributes surged, and he even gained 10 precious skill points. His status panel now glowed with a golden light, reflecting the sublimation of his soul. Yet, deep down, he felt a growing sense of unease. The server announcement showed the shutdown was happening an hour earlier than in his past life. He wondered if his own actions, the butterfly effect, had accelerated the merging of worlds. By 10:50 p.m., the final countdown began. We see him stepping out, prepared for the inevitable. The world as they knew it was about to end. He gripped his weapon, the heavenly secret, a cold smile playing on his lips. The moment the game invaded reality had finally arrived. Standing on his balcony, he looked up at the rifts in the sky. Beyond the soul-tearing light, he saw demonic beasts beginning their rampage. In the game, a level 65 griffin was something he could kill with a wave of his hand. But in reality, its massive body could easily crush a residential building. He expected the first call to be from Su Wanting, but surprisingly, it was Zhang Chunlin. To be honest, the man sounded completely terrified. Zhang Chunlin begged for help, shouting that he couldn't find Yu and that a level 100 monster had appeared at the school. As a knight, he couldn't hold it alone. His voice was a roar of desperation over the sound of collapsing buildings. He sighed. Even if Zhang Chunlin couldn't hold, he simply had to. He told his friend that without the debuffs, he would be fine, and to protect their teachers and classmates. Then, Su Wanting's call came through. Her voice was trembling as she realized his dream had actually come true. He calmly told her to stay inside and not to move, for the world had changed. The world map had changed completely. Satellite navigation was useless. He warned her not to wander until he could reach the specific coordinates of Tianhua City. After hanging up, we see him receive news of Bai Shi's death. She had fallen while leading the Mahai City garrison in a desperate struggle against sea monsters. With no time for words, he leaped through his window. His residential complex had become a hunting ground for hundreds of griffins. The monsters were tearing at the wire mesh of the basketball court, which was packed with terrified survivors. He let out a cold snort and focused his mind. The flying squirrel from the game merged with him instantly, and a pair of gray wings burst from his back as he soared into the clouds. The 35% attribute bonus made his blood boil with power. He summoned the pigbird and the snow girl to protect the civilians. Holding the heavenly secret, he dove down. Each gray flash of his weapon claimed a griffin, while the pigbird spat out soul flames. The flames ignited the area, while the snow girl became a walking freezer, using her snow drifting in the human realm to trap the monsters in ice. After saving the crowd, he ignored their apologies and thanks. He and his pets transformed into a streak of light, heading straight for the university. Longhai University of Technology was already a field of ruins. The military companies stationed there were fighting to the death, but they were overwhelmed. Most of the soldiers had only inherited level 70 strength, and casualties were heavy under the assault of level 100 monsters. Zhang Chunlin charged in on a golden horse. Using a taunt skill, Zhang Chunlin drew the attention of dozens of monsters while screaming Jiang Yuyu's name into the chaos. Suddenly, the earth shook violently as a 100-meter-tall dark magic dragon, a level 80 boss, leveled the teaching building with ease. The survivors in the gymnasium fell into total despair. Yi Tenglong, that coward, was wetting himself while simultaneously cursing at Jiang Tingting. He whined that Ling Feng knew the invasion was coming and got strong, so it was his duty to save them. To be honest, his entitlement was staggering. A crimson light sliced through the sky as Ling Feng's voice descended coldly from above the dragon. He looked down at the pathetic Yi Tenglong. He told the coward that his strength was for his own survival, not for saving trash. He then ordered the pigbird to burn the dragon to a crisp. While Yi Tenglong was still muttering his bitter sarcasm, the pigbird's divine light illuminated the entire campus. Ling Feng hovered in the air, wings vibrating. Zhang Chunlin stared in awe, amazed that his boss could fly. Ling Feng simply replied that it was a basic pet possession skill. The dark magic dragon let out a world-shaking roar. This was the very beast that had killed him in his past life, but now it was merely prey. To Ling Feng, the beast was nothing more than a walking pile of experience points. He activated his enhanced thrust, and the heavenly secret pierced the dragon's eye like a falling star. Utilizing his extreme speed of 400 yards, he instantly circled behind the beast, chaining an enhanced bow shield with an enhanced sneak attack. The dragon's prideful breath didn't even graze his clothes. With a final, terrifying burst from his twin bows, the 100-meter-tall behemoth came crashing down, shaking the very earth beneath them. He skillfully carved away the wings, eyeballs, and claws, storing them in his ring. It was a pity the dragon's level was too low to produce a soul form for his collection. He ordered Zhang Chunlin to escort the students while he cleared the path ahead, instantly killing every monster in their way as the convoy raced toward the northern intersection. At that moment, the blue planet was expanding frantically, its surface area growing 100-fold. New lands were rising out of nothingness in the center of East Pingyang. And there, just as he had sensed, Tianhua City stood quietly in the distance. Inside the convoy, Yi Tinglong was still shouting nonsense about how Ling Feng owed him money. Zhang Chunlin, pushed past his limit of patience, actually laughed. He pulled out his phone and transferred 3 million credits on the spot, telling the coward to take his money. In this new era where order had collapsed and strength was everything, money was utterly useless. Zhang Chunlin grabbed Yi Tinglong like a small, pathetic chick. He tossed the man into the monster-infested wilderness. In that moment, the survivors finally understood that neither law nor gold could save them anymore. Only power mattered. Finally, we see them arrive at the gates of Tianhua City. The cat girl, He, led the rotating night order as they knelt on one knee to greet their returning master. The 100,000 civilians following behind were completely frozen in shock at the sight of such a grand reception. It was a display of authority they hadn't expected from the man who had just saved them. A holy, elegant figure appeared before him, ignoring the stares of the crowd to pull him into a tight embrace. Moonlight bathed the walls of Tianhua City in a silver glow. This place had become the only sanctuary for hundreds of miles. However, the commander of the rear guard, Long Lin, arrived with a suffocating battle report. He reported that Longhai City had completely fallen. Millions of monsters were now converging on Tianhua City, and they desperately needed the city lord's instructions. Commander Long Lin gripped his military communicator tightly as he delivered more grim news. It seemed the situation was far worse than they had imagined. Global military headquarters were being attacked one after another, falling into chaos as the world's defenses crumbled. Communication was now impossible. Looking at the 10,000 refugees, Ling Feng coldly announced that entry and exit from Tianhua City were free, but those who stayed must obey. He declared Zhang Chunlin the vice city lord, stating his word was law. As for those who wished to leave, he would certainly not stop them. He warned them that while no one would stop them, their lives were their own responsibility once they left. In this era of collapsed order, he appointed Zhang Chunlin to lead the 3 major legions in defending Tianhua City. Meanwhile, Ling Feng had to face a more terrifying threat, having received a distress signal from Bai Shui. Zombies had appeared in Mahai City, and intelligence from Shui Mo revealed that a level 110 necromancer boss was turning the living into an undead army. Turning to Kong Yin and Kong Lin, he offered an irresistible bargain. If they helped him rescue General Liu, he would grant the Saintis clan their own territory. Furthermore, he promised them unlimited access to the trial tower of Tianhua City. To be honest, it was an offer they simply couldn't refuse. With the deal struck, Kong Yin took Su wanting to find the general, while Ling Feng sprouted wings and flew directly toward Mahai City. He knew that if the zombie virus created by the corpse worm king spread, even Tianhua City would be doomed. He soon stepped into the ruins of the once prosperous city. We see nothing but devastation. The streets are filled with the walking dead, their eyes white and their throats emitting piercing, guttural shrieks. Meanwhile, atop a ruined building in the city center, Bai Shui was in a desperate situation. The Valkyrie was being ambushed by 3 of her own teammates. Du Li, Wang Jing, and Chun Yan. These 3 scoundrels were notorious, desperate ones who specialized in murdering others for their wealth. They laughed, gloating that the level 120 boss was weakened and the beautiful girl was wounded, meaning all her top-tier equipment now belonged to them. That particular psychopath, named Wang Jing, didn't stand a chance. Ling Feng suddenly appeared and grabbed him firmly. He immediately activated his cultivation technique to devour the man's essence. At that moment, the bottleneck within his body shattered completely. His soul reached the 6th stage of breakthrough, and his level rose to 121. It was a perfectly timed power-up, to say the least. He chose to let the other traitors flee for now, focusing instead on taking down the weakened level 120 giant boss they had been fighting. After devouring its soul, he felt a surge of potent life force rushing through him. This was, after all, the first boss soul he had claimed in reality. Finding Bai Shui on the verge of death, he decided to use her as a bit of a test subject, feeding her a potent recovery pill. When the effects seemed too slow, he gave her a super recovery pill. Seeing the Valkyrie return to full health made him feel much more at ease. Next, we see them tear through the streets to hunt the level 70 Stone King boss. It was a creature he remembered well from the game. In reality, this creature could endlessly produce zombies. After defeating her, Ling Feng obtained an evil item called the Star of Huile. While we watch them battle the endless monster nests, he suddenly looks up to see several figures standing high among the clouds. He feels an inexplicable, heart-pounding pressure, far exceeding level 150. Suddenly, an ancient creature of unknown level emerges from the sea. This 100-meter-tall, giant monster looks like a mere plaything in the newcomer's eyes. Ling Feng quickly pulls Bai Shi back to retreat. As they try to escape, a thunderous roar echoes through the sky, cursing the beast for daring to plunder the Longling Kingdom's territory. The golden light fades to reveal a man in golden armor, holding a golden spear, descending from the heavens. He is a powerful figure indeed. This is Jin Chong, the governor of Jinhai province. To Ling Feng's shock, the ferocious sea monster retreats into the deep in fear. The beast mutters about the God's Path realm as it flees. Just then, two familiar lights descend as Su Wanting arrives with reinforcements. She brings Kong Yen, Kong Lin, and the blood-armored General Lu Quan. Governor Jin Chong's attitude shifts instantly upon seeing the two Sanuses. He becomes quite respectful, even looking at Ling Feng with new interest because the Sanuses reside in Tianhua City. From Jin Chong, we learn a cruel truth. The Blue Planet is no longer what it was, but is now divided into countless territories. The 8 southeastern provinces are now under Longling Kingdom's rule. The game invasion was actually a long-planned evolutionary selection. In Jin Chong's eyes, those eaten by monsters were simply failures who wasted 20 years of opportunities to grow strong. The governor formally recognizes Ling Feng as the lord of Tianhua City, essentially claiming him as one of his own subordinates. Facing this unpredictable governor, Ling Feng knows he must play along for now, though being treated like a pawn infuriates him. The world is far larger and darker than he imagined. On the way back, he addresses Lu Quan affectionately as grandfather. He urgently asks about the global situation. General Lu Quan looks at him with a heavy expression, his voice filled with gravity. He explains that the Blue Planet has become a map they no longer recognize. As night falls, the city lord's mansion is brightly lit. Listening to the news brought by Grandfather Lu, Ling Feng realizes how total the transformation is. To the east, entire nations have fallen. The northern empires struggle in hunger and cold, while the western powers have crumbled after their heavy weaponry became useless. Almost overnight, the world turned to scorched earth. The waters of our dragon kingdom have expanded 100-fold, and the 8 southeastern provinces have been annexed. We are now part of the Longling Kingdom. Governor Jin Chong, that peak second transition expert, looks at us Blue Planet natives with nothing but charity and contempt. We cannot simply sit and wait for death. Bai Shi waves her weapon indignantly, noting that Jin Chong doesn't even view them as human beings. Grandfather Lu Quan nods slowly. He tells Ling Feng that as the lord of Tianhua City and its recognized strongest warrior, they will follow his lead. We must organize all survivors to seek a way to exist here, to survive in this chaotic world. And just as we are discussing our strategy, High Priestess Kong Yin suddenly proposes taking Su Wanting away. A spirit seer is a once-in-a-millennium talent, and staying with those who haven't even reached second transition would only waste her potential. Kong Yan's words are harsh, but her gaze toward Ling Feng holds a strange glint. She warns him not to deceive himself. Jin Chong values him not just for the city, but because he is a once-in-10,000-years Skywalker. It is a powerful title, to be sure, but it means the plots to kill him will only increase. Ling Feng is shaken. It seems the potential of the Skywalker class far exceeds his imagination. Just as the weight of this sinks in, Long Jiang, the captain of the Tianhua Knights, rushes into the hall to report a discovery. They have found an endless range of gold mines in the western suburbs, and to the northwest, a vast soul mountain range. Beneath those peaks lies a spiritual vein capable of producing soul essence stones for cultivation. Kong Yen stands up instantly, her voice urgent as she addresses the city lord. She proposes that if Ling Feng grants 2 peaks to the Saintis clan as their territory, they will form a formal defensive alliance with Tianhua City. The spirit seer could train in the mountains near the city, which seems like a fair trade. Ling Feng makes a decisive choice immediately. We see them digging until a shimmering soul essence stone is unearthed. Ling Feng turns to Kong Yen and agrees to give them the 2 suburban peaks. However, he demands more than an alliance. The talented youths of Tianhua City must also be allowed to receive training from the Saintis clan. In exchange, our trial tower will be fully open to them. On this first day of the Blue Planet's cataclysm, he has gained a city and a mine. The massive hoard of divine materials, pills, and skill books in his warehouse are his provisions for war. He immediately issues an order for the 3 major legions to occupy the mining area. He announces to everyone that the city lord's mansion will only take a 10% tax. The remaining 90% belongs to the miners, who can then exchange there or with him for divine equipment, spirit medicine, and even advancements. The news of these skills and rewards instantly ignited hope among the 100,000 refugees. In this brutal era of invasion, Ling Feng intended to use these 2 spirit mines as a lever to jumpstart the rise of the Blue Planet natives. As the rules of Tianhua City were gradually established, the city transformed into a massive survival experiment. He told himself he wasn't a nanny. He provided housing, mentors, and protection, while the 100,000 people in the city would mine, gather, or choose subclasses to earn their own survival resources. It was a cold but absolutely fair exchange. That night at 11 o'clock, several magnificent flying vessels descended upon the Tianjin city square. Governor Jin Chang appeared once more, accompanied by a female Chamber of Commerce president named Mia and 8 powerful clan leaders from the other world. City Lord Ling, you are very far-sighted, Mia remarked, looking him over with the scrutinizing gaze of a superior. In all of Jinhai province, he was the only Blue Planet native who actually owned a city. During the banquet at the mansion, Jin Chang finally showed her teeth. She acknowledged his status as city lord and his ownership of the Tianjin mineral veins, but the price for this recognition was heavy. Every month, he would have to pay 5 million ordinary soul essence stones and 50 million gold coins as tribute. It was blatant exploitation, but deep down, Ling Feng knew that Tianjin City currently had no bargaining chips at all. Don't think it's expensive, Jin Chang said, taking a sip of wine. Tianjin City sat at the heart of monster territory. Normally, a beast tide would have attacked by tomorrow morning, but if he paid, the governor could buy him 10 days of peace. 10 days, a development period bought with a mountain of resources. Ling Feng took a deep breath, his voice steady as he asked if paying double the tribute would grant him the right to proactively clear the surrounding high-level bosses during those 10 days. Jin Chang laughed, a playful and mocking sound. City Lord Ling is indeed clever. Deal. Once those unwelcome guests finally left, he immediately summoned Lu Quan, Su Wanting, and Zhang Chunlin. He was well aware that Jin Chang's so-called stability was nothing more than a fragile illusion that he had to solidify through sheer strength. The entire city was ordered to mine by night and level up by day. He needed 20,000 apprentices to rush the production of equipment. The main forces had to reach level 30 within 10 days. Just then, Bai Shi arrived with some troubling news. Another city owner, Shui Mohan, had sent a desperate plea for help. His region had no grace period, and a beast tide was set to erupt there tomorrow. And his tribute amount is actually several times higher than mine, Bai Shi noted with a heavy expression. Shui Mohan was desperate for Ling Feng's help. Looking at the message on the screen, Ling Feng quickly made up his mind. He had to go, not just to save Shui Mohan, but to see things for himself. He wanted to witness what this so-called beast tide really was, and uncover the secrets hidden between these otherworldly kingdoms. He told the high priest to delay building the territory. Turning to Kong Yan, he asked the sisters of the Saintis clan to lead his people in a frenzy of leveling up. It was a bold request, certainly. In exchange, the mines and trial tower of Tianjin City would be fully open to them. Once the home defense was settled, he tightened his grip on the heavenly secret. He knew some might think he was foolish for not chasing down those desperate ones earlier. But at that moment, facing a low-health level 120 boss, and with his soul level on the verge of breaking through, he had to prioritize his own evolution. In this unpredictable blue planet world, strength is the only true foundation. Before setting off for the Frozen Kingdom to support Shui Mohan, he had to ensure absolute stability at his back. He entrusted the city's defense to Su Wanting, with Bai Shuyi and old man Lu Quan assisting. As for Zhang Chunlin, the vice city lord was currently overwhelmed. He had to settle the 100,000 refugees sent by Jin Chang and organize teams to level up outside. Watching those who had lost their homes being forced into mines and the wilderness by the pressure of survival, Ling Feng felt a grim clarity. In this digitized reality, hard work might not guarantee survival, but laziness certainly meant death. Before leaving, he checked his attribute panel one last time. After his soul broke through to the 6th rank, the advantages of his Skywalker class became even more terrifying. He had gained a new skill, the Statue of God. This move, 9 Heavens Save Me, didn't just have incredible explosive power. Its most valuable feature was 3 seconds of absolute invincibility. In a world where you only have one life, invincibility is the ultimate insurance policy. With everything settled, he activated his wings. He transformed into a blurred afterimage, streaking through the night sky toward the border, while passing over a dark, dense forest. The flashes of lightning below caught his attention. He suppressed his aura and landed silently upon the treetops to observe the scene. Below, a young girl who looked like a petite doll was surrounded by 3 rough-looking men. Their names were Wang Jin, Chen Yan, and Du Li. Ling Feng's gaze turned cold. It was those persistent, desperate ones again. The girl, Lin Xiaoya, was only in her early 20s, but her lightning magic was impressive. She had clearly spent a fortune on the game before it became reality. "You scumbags," she shouted. Lin Xiaoya wasn't going down without a fight. "I'm not afraid of you," she cried out. Though her voice trembled, the lightning crackling in her hands told a much braver story. "Yeah, little sister, we'll be taking that top-tier gear of yours." Wang Jin sneered with a twisted grin. "And don't worry, we'll take good care of you first. Then we'll kill you as a little gift for Chun-Shi back in the forest." Ling Feng, watching from above, let out a cold snort and stopped hiding. Wang Jin was still laughing when he felt a sudden chill on the back of his neck. In a blur of motion, Ling Feng's heavenly secret sword struck. The blade sliced through his defenses with surgical precision, ending him instantly. Du Li and Chun Yin watched, their souls nearly leaving their bodies in terror. Ling Feng stepped slowly from the shadows, his sword dripping. "I heard you wanted to give me a surprise?" he asked, causing the 2 men to scream his name. They tried to scatter and run, but trying to outrun a Skywalker is, to be honest, a bit of a cosmic joke. 2 flashes later, Du Li was dead. Chun Yin was cut down next, laughing maniacally in his final moments. Ling Feng, you'll never know who our boss is. He'll kill every last one of you. Ling Feng looked at the cooling corpses with total indifference. Whoever this boss was, if they stood in his way, their end would be exactly the same. Just as he prepared to continue his journey, the girl, Lin Xiaoya, let out a high-pitched squeal. Wow, it really is Brother Ling Feng. Oh my god, I'm your biggest fan. Before he could even react, she lunged at him like an overexcited octopus, jumping right onto him. She wrapped her legs around his waist, sobbing about her family's shop and her struggles. Ling Feng stood there, frozen like a statue, quite unsure how to proceed. This girl claimed to be his #1 supporter, apparently ordering 1,000 items of everything in his livestream. It was a strange situation, indeed. He found this tiny fan far more troublesome to handle than a 150-pound monster. Lin Xiaoya, could you please get down? He asked helplessly. No, I finally found you, and I'm so scared. Looking at her nearly dead phone screen filled with order receipts, Ling Feng could only rub his temples in frustration. With the beast tide approaching, he couldn't exactly leave this girl alone in the wilderness to be eaten. It seemed his solo trip had just gained a passenger. By 6 the next morning, he and Lin Xiaoya finally reached the border of the Dragon Forest Kingdom. Behind them, Tianyue City was finally finding its rhythm. But he knew a single isolated city wouldn't be enough. For humanity to survive on this blue planet, they would eventually have to unite. And so, he decided to cross the Yellow River toward the Frozen Kingdom to support Xuan Moan. He carried Lin Xiaoya on his back, moving like a high-speed machine. Even at 500 yards per second, he marveled at how impossibly vast the expanded blue planet had become. At the border checkpoint, he saw it for the first time. We see the guards of the Frozen Kingdom, a group of white elves whose beauty is almost otherworldly. A female general named Meower watches him closely. Her gaze is a mix of curiosity and caution as she warns him that his presence as a Skywalker is, in itself, a major problem. Her words leave Ling Feng with a growing sense of unease. Deep down, he suspects there is more to this kingdom than meets the eye. By 8 in the morning, Xuan Mohan stands atop the city walls, watching a black tide of monsters surging toward them. She has only 600 warriors. These are the only ones who retain their game powers. The rest are just 100,000 ordinary humans. She reminds them that this isn't a game anymore. There are no respawns here. If they fall, it's truly over. Her voice trembles slightly in the cold wind, but her resolve remains unshakable. What truly infuriates her, however, are the elven airships hovering above, watching the scene as if it were a mere spectacle for their amusement. The elves look on with cold indifference, having no intention of helping. The battle erupts instantly, and for the first 10 waves, they hold their own. But during the 10th wave, a level 80 dark magic dragon appears. It's a terrifying sight, to be perfectly honest. Xuan Mohan leads a desperate assault, and with the help of heavy artillery, they manage to slay it. But from the 11th wave, the difficulty spikes. The number of monsters grows exponentially, with level 55 creatures charging the walls in endless swarms, battering the city's defensive magic circles. By the 19th wave, a gap is finally blasted into the reinforced walls. This is the moment where everything hangs in the balance. The soldiers let out a roar that shakes the heavens, declaring they will plug the gap with their own bodies to protect their families. In this desperate hour, they leap from the walls without hesitation to form a human shield. It's a tragic, yet incredibly brave sight to behold. Inspired, the mages chant faster and the priests work until their hands are a blur. But then, a crack of thunder splits the sky. A massive beast, dozens of meters tall and wreathed in purple lightning, crushes the rocks beneath its feet. It's a level 120 storm laser. Xuan Mohan turns pale, wondering how such a monster could possibly appear during only the 20th wave. It shouldn't be possible. She looks up at the clouds and sees the elves elegantly sipping wine with cruel smiles. In that moment, the terrible truth becomes clear. The elves are manipulating the beast tide to turn the city into a graveyard. Desperate, she wonders where Ling Feng could possibly be. Xuan Mohan grips her staff so tightly that her knuckles turn white, while at this very moment, Ling Feng is carrying Ling Xiaoya like a bolt of white lightning. He streaks across the surface of the Yellow River, advancing at full speed toward the Frozen Kingdom, which is currently teetering on the edge of total collapse. By only the 20th wave, the level 120 storm laser beast manipulated by the elves has already crushed the outer defenses. To be honest, it's a grim sight. Although Xuan Mohan activates her elemental purification and the 5-element magic circle, her damage seems like a mere drop in the bucket against the thick-skinned beast. Even the combined skills of hundreds of inheritors only manage to shave off less than a quarter of the beast's health. She wonders if this is truly the end. Despair fills Xuan Mohan's eyes, while high above the clouds, the white elf princess, Moe, watches everything with cold indifference. Beside her, a male elf remarks that watching the weak struggle is almost cruel. They are already preparing to depart, waiting for the city to turn into ruins. At this critical moment, a white light streaks across the horizon. Ling Feng, carrying Ling Xiaoya, activates his extreme star dive and plunges downward. Before the elves can even react, he has already blinked directly behind the storm laser. Shui Mohan's scream of his name ignites hope throughout the city. Ling Feng doesn't waste words. He opens with Heart Power Burst, combining it with the teleportation effects of 7-star energy gathering. On the battlefield, he leaves behind a trail of afterimages. With his soul at the 6th stage, every backstab from his dual bows carves massive chunks out of the beast's health. In just 30 seconds, 30 stacks of burst state are full. With a shout to shatter, he detonates the marks, and the once arrogant beast lets out a scream. The 100-meter-long body of the storm laser crashes to the ground. It was an instant kill, a true one-shot, and the entire city erupts in a mountain shaking cheer, with some girls even shouting that they want to marry him. On the airship, Princess Mo suddenly stands up, her pupils flickering with purple light. She stares intently at his figure, realizing he is a Skywalker, that legendary class. But she is even more shocked when he summons the vermilion bird. For the first time, the proud elf princess shows a look of pure terror, an ancient vermilion bird, actually acknowledging a human as its master. Ignoring the prying eyes from above, Ling Feng secretly devours the beast's soul, causing his soul experience to skyrocket. Taking advantage of the gap in the monster siege, he kills smaller mobs while leading Xiaoya and Shui Mohan to reorganize their strategy. The battle continues with renewed intensity as they push back against the tide. Ling Feng activates Storm Attraction to draw the monster's hatred, while Shui Mohan uses her 5-element magic circle to lock them firmly in place. Under the vermilion bird's unstoppable soul bombardment, the metal-clad devouring beast is actually melted down into a pool of molten iron. With lightning speed, Ling Feng reaches out and grabs the beast's shimmering golden soul. As he absorbs this energy, we see him feel a sudden shift. A roar echoes in his mind as his soul experience reaches its limit. Just as the 40th wave is being cleared, his soul cultivation begins to break through. He officially enters the 7th stage, feeling a surge of power from deep within. His Skywalker attributes undergo yet another massive qualitative change. His dual bows break the 90,000 damage mark, and his movement speed becomes so fast that even afterimages can barely be seen. To his surprise, Shui Mohan, despite being a top-tier elementalist, is still stuck at the 3rd stage of soul cultivation. He asks her if she has ever tried devouring souls. She explains that souls are simply too difficult to catch, vanishing in a flash. Her answer leaves Ling Feng feeling a bit amused, to be honest. It seems his god-tier speed isn't just for combat. It's a literal cheat code for soul cultivation. What others find impossible to catch is for him like fruit waiting to be picked. High above, the White Elves' conspiracy continues as the effeminate male elf, Urxius, complains. With a twisted expression, he asks Princess Moe if they will really let these blue star ants pass. If they survive, according to the rules, the Frozen Kingdom will become a legal city-state of their realm, even gaining council rights. Princess Moe's eyes flash with a mysterious purple light. She stares down at Ling Feng, her heart filled with shock. He has reached the 7th stage. She wonders what kind of monster this man truly is. Determined to utterly destroy the Frozen Kingdom, Urxius takes matters into his own hands and suddenly leaps down from the airship.